Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wondergoal, the soccer betting podcast from the Action Network, presented to you by Bet365. My name is Michael Lieboff. Joining me, as always, are BJ Cunningham and Anthony DeBundo, and together, the three of us are going to break down the upcoming midweek slate of Premier League matches, a bunch of makeup matches for teams that have been involved in domestic tournaments deep into like the FA Cup and the League Cup, etc. So we got really good matches, I think, to break down in the Premier League. We'll talk a little bit about the Coppa Italia semifinals, and we'll then give out a Underdog Parlay for the ages here, 358 to 1 for this one. So I feel good about it, too. I don't really see how this one doesn't come through. But before we get to all that fun, we will start with the Merseyside derby between Everton and Liverpool. This is Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. And wouldn't you know, I took the week off and Everton get another win because the Stanley Cup playoffs are happening. So I've been pulled in a bunch of different directions. The Cricket World Cup is coming to Long Island in a few weeks. I've got some stuff I got to take care of there. I wear a lot of hats, Anthony. But one of my favorite hats is my Everton hat. And I think that they're going to do it here. I think that they can probably put up a little more resistance than these odds imply. Right now, Everton is a plus 550 home underdog. Liverpool minus 215 on the road, and the draw is plus 380. What do you say?
I was in my local Wegmans today, immediately after the Fulham match, and I saw a guy in a Liverpool kit and hat, and I thought to my first thought was Lieboff would hate this guy. that was the first thing I thought.
If he's shopping at Wegmans, he's probably fine.
Yeah, I was getting a birthday cake, but I am going to call this unders week in the Premier League. This is a beautiful couple of matchups. I think 4 unders, and this is one of the 3 that I like of the 6 matches. So I'm going to take some under. Liverpool's attack was fine today at Fulham, but they still created right around 1 expected goal. It was not the same dynamic, free-flowing team we've seen. Everton's attack, with Beto now injured, is like drawing near dead unless they get set pieces or 25-yard bangers. They have not been able to create from open play whatsoever for the last month plus. I know they won a game against Burnley where the goalie kicked it off Calvert-Lewin, and they won today because of some insane VAR decisions and some great finishes. But this attack is really not offering much for me. I do think Everton can hold up defensively at home and make this really difficult for Liverpool. Klopp rotated a little bit this today against Fulham. That contributes, of course, to the output. But I think it's a secret sign that Klopp is well aware that his team is kind of gassed right now. And I think it's kind of the case for all 3 teams in the Premier League title race. All 3 are really exhausted coming into the stretch run, and all 3 managers are complaining about it, as they always do. And I think this total is just a touch high. It should be closer to 3. So at 3.25, I love the under here.
Yep.
All 3 games in the title race. I'm just going to throw that now. I'm going to bet the under. I think all 3 attacks are not nearly as efficient right now as their market rating because of various injuries and just exhaustion. And it all helps the dogs, and it all helps. I think the market's inflating all of them right now because of the must-win tax.
Must-win tax, baby.
Yeah. And I think I'd rather attack in the totals market than in the sides, but I don't necessarily disagree.
Yeah, and I think so.
Are going to recommend in a minute.
The must-win tax, I think, is absolutely playing a role here, and I also like Liverpool just wobbled. I know Everton just lost 6-0 to Chelsea, right before they lost to they beat Forest, but we're not really too concerned about that stuff when you're dealing with a plus 550 underdog. Whereas when you're asking to lay minus 215 on the road, the wobble from Liverpool against Atalanta, and then in the league to Palace, like this is, and then to Atalanta again, like this isn't. That's something that I'll play into, and like you said, I think that fatigue has to be considered here for a team that's being pulled in a bunch of different directions, a bunch of different races, and I think that there's enough off the field kind of intangibles that work in an underdog's direction already in a match like this, in a turtle rivalry, right? And I know you talked about Beto, but Calvert-Lewin, at least, he's going, he's alive and in one piece, so that's always a good thing for Everton. How long it lasts, I don't know. And I wasn't like particularly uh, impressed with what they did today against Forest, but they got the win. I think that's a huge load off their shoulders. So this isn't going to be a game against Liverpool where they need to get something out of it in terms for the relegation battle, which I think actually is a bigger deal than maybe people will realize. And yeah, a little bit less pressure on Everton in this battle with Liverpool than there have been in some of the more recent ones, BJ. So I don't know. I think that there's enough here. We know that Everton's kind of process numbers have been like mid-table all season, so I don't really think that this number should be this high considering what Liverpool's had to put up with the past few weeks.
Yeah, I agree. I know Anthony's going to attack the unders here, but I actually like Everton +1. And I think that there are some distinct advantages and some things that Fulham did that are kind of alarming for Liverpool. In a must-win situation at Atalanta, they take, one shot and 0.04 XG in the second half. Today against Fulham, like Anthony mentioned, just a little over one expected goal, 2 goals from outside the box, another one's from a low-quality angle. And here's the thing about Liverpool, and it's something we've known for a long time, obviously, where they want to play in transition. They're not really the best team when you sit in a defensive block and you ask them to build up. It got pointed out all over Twitter today that Liverpool's build-up structure was a complete mess. They weren't getting overloads in the right positioning. It didn't seem like they knew what they really wanted to do. Also, there's a question, is Nunez going to be healthy enough to play a full even 45 minutes here? Because he keeps coming off the bench because he has a nagging injury. And obviously, Liverpool are way better with him in the lineup than with not. The previous meeting, Everton got a red card early, so we can kind of throw that out the window. But Everton does have distinct advantages. And I know Anthony's going to hate me saying this, but it's on set pieces. And if you look through Liverpool, they're not good at defending set pieces. And overall, for the season, they're pretty high up there in winning aerial duels. But when you look through the individual players on Liverpool who are winning them, it's just Van Dijk and Konate. That is it. They don't really have anybody else besides those two that can go up against the amount of huge bodies that Everton can throw in the box. So if Everton can play a lineup with maybe Onana, Branthwaite, Tarkowski, Calvert-Lewin, there's 4 guys right there who can give them great advantages on set pieces. So they have an advantage there. Also, Liverpool's road form has not really been that good all season long. +4, I guess after today, +4.5 expected goal differential in about 16 matches. Everton's closer to a little over +9 now at home. I think this is a good matchup here for Everton. I think Fulham showed some things and some weaknesses in Liverpool's build-up structure, things that Everton can absolutely repeat. We know they're a good mid to high block team. So, and like you said, Michael, taking the pressure of relegation off should free Everton up a little bit. And I think this is only going to go one of 2 ways, Michael. I think Everton's either going to draw or win this, or they're going to lose 5-0. And I don't think there's really going to be much in between. So I like the value on Everton +1 at +110. This is also Liverpool's 3rd road match in less than a week. Yep. So that's another thing that hurts them. Huge. So I think there's some value in Everton. I know people are going to hate me saying that because people listen to this podcast. That's literally what we've told them basically all season long. And then Anthony comes in last week and says, no, let's actually bet against Everton. And then they get every bad decision that's gone against them all season long, just goes for them all in one match. So I know people are going to hate us saying that, but that's whatever.
Yeah, it's a tough, one of the worst spots of the year, really, for Liverpool. I know it's a rivalry match, but 3 road matches in 6 days.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, the one bet you can take to the bank for this match.
Jared Branthwaite, first goal scorer.
Sure. Same game parlay it with Jurgen Klopp complaining a lot before and after, no matter how it goes. All right, so that's a Wednesday.
Luton Town have 4 matches left, right? So
yeah,
I think they're pretty good.
Yeah, I saw Luton Town is, I believe, -300 now to be relegated after today's result. So I
just kept adding a little more every week to when they were in the minus 150 to 180.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
All right, let's stick to the title race with Arsenal up next. They're taking on Chelsea. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff on Tuesday afternoon, so like the truncated schedule for them as well.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Premier League. Well, great scheduling. Pep here's over here complaining how they had to play on Wednesday and Saturday. So does Arsenal. And then they
Yeah.
put Arsenal on Tuesday and Man City on Thursday. That's fun.
Yeah, the lone game on Tuesday, which is something. But well, you can't play Bournemouth and Wolves on the lone game. Come on.
Whatever. Yeah, it is.
Nonetheless, the Gunners are laying minus 185 against their London rivals. Chelsea plus 475. The draw is plus 370. Similar kind of build up to this one, I think, for where I'll be going. I'm going to bet against Arsenal here. I'm going to bet with Chelsea. I've been talking about this Chelsea team all this season and even like kind of last year too. That a team I want to bet when they are big underdogs against the teams ahead of them in the table, and a team I want to avoid at all costs when they are laying big numbers. They haven't played since Monday they played the FA Cup semifinal. I should say they haven't played in the league since a Monday drubbing of Everton. Then they played City really well, I thought, in the FA Cup quarterfinal. So a couple of good games in a row, but you look right before that, it was a 2-2 draw against Sheffield United. The crazy match with Manchester United right before that. Then a 2-2 draw with Burnley, a win over Newcastle United, and then a 2-2 draw with Brentford, and then a great 1-1 draw with City. So like this team is just absolutely playing up and down to its competition, and I think that they'll do it again here. I think that we obviously know that this team is good enough and has the talent to pull this off. So why not take a shot with them at plus 475? When considering that these two teams are playing a ton of soccer right now, they it's probably a moot point now, but they were pretty good against Arsenal in their first meeting. So, Anthony, anything here? Chelsea and Arsenal.
3.5 is minus 145 to the under. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills with that total. This is still Arsenal, right? They played City at Wembley. Chelsea did. Total close 3. Saturday. Neutral site. In what world is Arsenal playing higher event matches than City? Given their current attacking situation, given their much better defensive metrics, I just disagree. So I'm taking the under here. And so Jackson will probably have a brace on 2 goals from 15 plus yards each.
No, Saka hat trick. Saka hat trick is what
Saka looks tired, man.
Everybody looks tired, man.
Yeah, that's where we're at now. So I thought Saka had the worst match of maybe his season.
Oh my gosh,
against Wolves.
They look so exhausted right now,
and they look done. Yeah, and it's really tough. I mean, you have this hangover after the Bayern match. That's now 3 second halves in a row where I thought Arsenal were quite frankly bad. I know they scored in stoppage time, but they created almost nothing for the majority of the match at Wolves, and that was a Wolves team. The market saw Arsenal and said hammer time in the last hour after the Wolves released their lineup, and it didn't really play out that way. Even though Arsenal ultimately covers the close, like they didn't create all that much. Like Trossard looked like he scored on accident with the first goal. It was like, so, this open play team that had that like hot run of, a month and a half where they looked super gelled and flowing and great in attack. We have not seen that version of Arsenal in a while now. And I think the Champions League, the quick turnarounds, teams have figured out ways to build up better against them. I'm curious to see if Chelsea will follow suit with that. But I just really trust their defense to say, hey, like worst case, Chelsea gets 1 here. And, I don't really trust Arsenal to put up 3. So I think this total at 3.5 is bonkers. I have it right under 3. So I'm in strong disagreement with the market at 298. I have Arsenal favored by about a goal. So I think the line's totals, the spread is about right. But again, like even power rating Arsenal right now is really hard because it's their 3rd match in 6 days. And Chelsea, has the tough cup match loss, but they have much more rest otherwise coming into this. So, the spot advantage again shifts to Chelsea. Can Arsenal keep doing this? I don't know, but I do trust their defense. I do not trust their attack. That's been the truth all year. and I still am happy to back another Arsenal under at 3.5 minus 145 is crazy to me.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm very nervous for this match. This is one of the first ones I felt very, very nervous for in a long time with Arsenal. Yeah, I mean, it just simply comes down to they look gassed right now. They've been having to essentially play the same starting 11, or all the key players have been having to play. Saka, Odegaard, Havertz, Rice. And you mentioned something. I think the teams have been better about building up against them. Is teams are being braver about passing through the middle of the pitch, because for a long time, Arsenal's, when they had more rest and more available bodies, they were relentless with their press. Teams weren't able to go through the middle, because if you lose the ball in the middle of the pitch, like, it's a really bad thing, and it's a very easy transition moment for any team. So being brave in the middle of the pitch has been something the teams have been doing. Wolves actually did it pretty successfully for most of the match. They just have no attackers available and couldn't get anything going in the final third. So Chelsea can do that. They can, without a doubt. Against City, they were very, very good playing in a low block. Kind of took a carbon copy of what Real Madrid did against City and did it very well. So, but I agree. I'll probably be on under 3.5 as well here. Projected 2.9 goals. So Anthony and I are right in line there. But yeah, I don't really see how this plays out. I mean, game state's always funny, right? Because like the first match, Chelsea got a penalty and Mudryk scored a fluke goal from what was supposed to be a cross. They go up 2-0, and then there were a couple other fluke goals, one from outside the box, and it ends up where we got 4 goals scored off about 2.3 expected. So, yeah, I agree. I'll probably be on the under. Just probably going to ride these Arsenal unders all the way through, unless they get hot on set pieces, which they absolutely could.
They could. Remember that game, the total? When was that game?
That was November.
The total closed 2.5. So that's how much the goal environment has changed.
It's the Premier League now, man.
But for Arsenal, it really hasn't. I mean, Arsenal's kind of one of the exceptions to that rule. I mean, Chelsea have played some nut games. Like you were talking about, leave off like 3-2, 4-3, 2-2. But Arsenal is the one team that has said, we are not playing this style. We are not subscribing to it. We are going to play like this is still 2 years ago Premier League, and their totals are still getting bumped. I mean, I don't agree. So,
and that brings us to the third team in the title race, the favorite. That is Manchester City, who got
the invincible favorite.
The invincible. Both Manchester teams, man. Good, so much fun. This weekend, magic of the cup.
They literally, I mean, this Manchester City team can't lose, right? Like they're so.
BJ, we'll see, because this is a Thursday kickoff between them and Brighton, and it does look a little tricky, because once again, there's a little bit more rest here for City compared to what Arsenal and Liverpool will be dealing with, but not compared to what Brighton's going to be dealing with.
No.
So it's another situation where it's just, you have to wonder how much is left in a tank. And against a team like Brighton that can just turn up the dial on you. I know it's not been the Brighton that we've kind of come to know and love these past few seasons. It's not been like that this year, but on their day, that there'll still be a dangerous opponent. They are in a spot where they could everybody will know, like City will know, Brighton will know what the title race will look like, because the other teams are playing prior to this match, obviously. And I mean, it's been ugly for Brighton. So this is like a huge buy low opportunity against the City team that could be gassed. I mean, it's just been weird for Brighton, I think, more than anything. It's been bad, maybe between weird and bad, but that's not going to discourage me all that much here. I think, because once again, in this midweek slate with these the title teams, like, it's so much more about kind of factoring like the outside noise as much as it is just looking at numbers and projections, because these teams are gassed. So, BJ, can Brighton do it?
Yes, absolutely, they can do it. And obviously they have a bunch of rest coming to this match, but if you look at the 3 matches that De Zerbi and Pep have gone against each other, you can kind of throw out one of them, which was late last year. It was after City won the title, and you're probably hungover for the match. So, whatever. We'll throw that one out. But the first meeting last season, it was when De Zerbi was very fresh. I think it was like his second or third match in charge. I'd have to go back and look. But they did a really, really good job out of possession against City, which is maybe not something you would think against Brighton. You'd think they'd be trying to want to control possession, do a good job playing through the middle. But Brighton's actually a really good defensive team. And I think the fact that they went so long without giving up, without having a clean sheet, we've talked about all the goalkeeper issues, but they have been, when they've had to sit and rest defense, they've actually been really, really good. I mean, they're top 5 in non-penalty XG per 90. They're top 5 in shots allowed, top 5 in expected threat allowed. This is a really good defense who has everybody healthy defensively right now, except for Estupiñán, which, if they're going to not have the ball for a majority of this match, they're going to probably play 3 center backs anyway. And I think the injuries here are getting overblown for Brighton. I think it's a little mixture of must-win tax versus the injuries, because as it looks right now, obviously Matoma's out. Solly March has been out forever. Looks like Ferguson might not play and Ciso might not play. But if you look at what Brighton played in the first meeting against City, which, by the way, they dominated for like 50, 60 minutes of that match after City went up 2-0, they played a front three of Matoma, João Pedro, and Adingra. So they could very easily, who they brought on in the second half of that match, slot in Ansu Fati. And they can play a really good front three against City here. And the other thing I think City, why they've really struggled with Brighton, is because De Zerbi takes a lot of principles from Pep in terms of being in possession, where Brighton is so obsessed with playing through the middle of the pitch. So is City. So nobody really wants to play out wide. And you've seen that with Pep, where he's playing Grealish a ton because he wants control and he doesn't really want to get exposed in those wide areas. Whereas if he plays Doku, yes, he's a game wrecker. He can cause so many problems, but as soon as he loses the ball, they're very, very vulnerable out of possession and everything like that. So, again, great rest spot here for Brighton. City may not have Haaland. Who knows? We'll see by the time when the lineups come out. But, it's the same story with City. Like, they haven't been that good out of possession, and it kind of was still true against Chelsea. If they just had, a striker who could, shoot the ball when he's, wide open, that would help, I guess, which Brighton has those guys. So, I don't know. The previous meeting this season against Brighton and City, expected goals was 0.8 to 0.8. Brighton was so good after the 2 goals. They are still a really good team. So I know they haven't done that this season. And one more thing I'll say. I've said it many times. But the famous Thomas Frank quote against Brighton. You either have to give them what they want or we have to play a low block. Is City really good at doing either of those? Are they going to get caught in the middle many times if their press isn't that good? We'll see. But I only have City at around minus 160-ish, that range. So I think they're way overvalued here. Brighton on the rest advantage. Brighton plus 1.5 at minus 135 is the bet for me here.
I like the under too. Still major questions about Brighton's forward production. You mentioned it. Just hasn't been the same without Matoma, without March, without Ferguson fully fit and firing. Hasn't been great. And I think, part of the thing with Pep, right, they get the 2 early goals at home. They kind of dominate the first 15-ish minutes. But then I think it was an element of Pep saying, hey, look, he has a lot of respect for De Zerbi and says, we'll give you the ball. We don't think he can really break us down. Brighton didn't create much in that match. And they were super conservative. And I think it's going to be similar from Pep. I think he's going to try to get the lead and then sit on it. So I think most scenarios, unless Brighton hits them really early and City has to go gangbusters early, most game scenarios play out where this is like a 2 to 3 goal game, not a 4+ goal game, wide open thriller that we maybe would have expected when Brighton plays Liverpool, for example. And even Brighton's match against Liverpool was not very open or expansive. Brighton's match against Arsenal was not very open. So these games where we talk about Brighton and how the narrative on Brighton versus the numbers that BJ listed off are so vastly different. They're probably the most misunderstood team in the league the last 20 matches. That I think the total's high again, and I like under 3.25 at minus 115. Just put it in the app as we were recording.
All right, yeah. So that's the 3 title race contenders, all 3 in action on consecutive days. Arsenal Tuesday, Liverpool Wednesday, City on Thursday. Before we get to the rest of the Premier League matches for this midweek slate, a reminder that Wondergoal is proudly presented by Bet365, and Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than anyone else. Every day they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, and now North Carolina, or 18 and older in Kentucky. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER for help or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. It does seem like a little bit of a letdown to go from those matches to the next three, but we will charge on, and of course we'll wrap up with what is a wonderful match to bet at the very end of the show, and then get to our parlay and our best bets. But let's talk about Wolves and Bournemouth here. BJ, you're the only one with anything between the Cherries, who are traveling at plus 160, Wolves plus 165, the draw is plus 260, so a coin flip at the moment here.
I do like Bournemouth here. Draw no bet minus 110. You saw with Wolves, when they have no attackers available, it just doesn't work. Like it's sad. Like they had 0.14 xG, 0.17 expected threat. Like do the first or second phases of build up, they were okay against Arsenal, and just nothing. Like it was Lamina and Gomez having to make runs in there. Like it just doesn't work when you don't have Cunha in there. And I want to go back to not the Arsenal match, but the match previous to that one, which is the Nottingham Forest match, where Wolves was at home and they were trying to build out of the back quite a bit. And what kept up happening is they kept getting pinned to one side, which is what you kind of want to do in press, right? And they kept trying to switch the play, and Nottingham Forest just kept picking that pass off over and over again. And it actually led to one of the Nottingham Forest goals. That is exactly how Bournemouth's press is designed. They are designed to pin you to one side of the field and force you to play a switch play to the other side of the pitch. Now, why Bournemouth struggled during the beginning of the season is, implementing this hybrid pressing type system. It relies on the instincts of your midfielders and your fullbacks to know when to go try to intercept those passes or press those players. And Bournemouth wasn't really doing that effectively over the first half of the season, caused a ton of space, caused problems, caused teams to beat them in transition over and over again. Well, now they're humming. I know they just lost 3-1 to Aston Villa, but I didn't think they were terrible today against Villa. I thought they were fine. It was an performance on the road, but again,
slightly worse than even.
Yeah, exactly. But again, Wolves can play a good defensive block. They can maybe hand Bournemouth the ball here, but I mean, without Cunha and without Neto, it just doesn't work. Like they just can't create anything. So I like the Cherries minus 110. I did project this close to a pick 'em, but given those two guys, I mean, even against like Forest, like one of the goals just basically came on Cunha dribbling through the entire team. Like outside of that, like Wolves wasn't really doing much. So I think Wolves has problems in build up here. I think they turn the ball over a couple too many times against Bournemouth, get some easy transition opportunities. So I like the Cherries minus 110. Draw no bet.
Is this where I come in and say the total's a little high?
Yeah, I mean, I actually was thinking about Wolves team total under 1.5, quite frankly, to target that. I believe it's around minus 120.
I don't have a ton of trust in this Bournemouth defense. I don't really necessarily think it's all that real. Kind of the numbers that we've seen, I'm a little like, it's probably fake. But I don't really think Wolves are the team to really exploit that, like we saw Villa do today. And Villa were able to hit that key diagonal. And the equalizer they scored before half came on that kind of long diagonal ball. But I don't think this total's quite bettable. It's like under 3 is like minus 120, 125. If it was like minus 110, I'd bet it. I really think this is a week for just a bunch of flat kind of games, especially for these two teams who are kind of at a point in the season where they're not normally playing on short rest and neither have a ton left to go for. You tend to see defense drop off in those situations. But in the midweek scenario, with Wolves injuries, it's just not a high goal environment for me.
All right. On to Palace and Newcastle. I'll be sitting this one out, but the odds are Palace plus 180 at home. Newcastle's a road favorite plus 145, draw plus 260. Anthony, you can go first here, but you guys you're on on song for this one.
Yeah, I mean, BJ put it in the app as we were watching Palace West Ham this morning, and I hadn't done any pod prep yet. Looked at lines for the midweek, and I didn't even need to look at my numbers to know that 2.5 minus 145 ish with that total. That was insane. I have the total at 3.3. That is. Now it's at 3. So instead, I'm going to play BTTS and over 2.5. I kind of stole it from BJ because he put it in the doc.
No. This is the Debundo playbook. No,
it is the Debundo playbook. Yeah. The square play special. If you just bet BTS and over 2.5, I don't have the numbers in front of me. You're probably winning a lot of money in the Prem this year. So good for you. But it shouldn't be as easy as it is. But I mean, you get the goal alert, 7th minute, Michael Olise, 1-0. Then you get the goal alert, 2-0, 16th minute, Eberechi Eze. Oh, okay. Those guys are playing. And the on-off splits are insane. Not even just necessarily from an XG perspective, but just both guys are running real good from a finishing. They're kicking the ball into the corners this year. And when they're on the pitch, their creativity, the way that Glasner is playing them off each other, showing some imaginative creativity. We kind of said hey, we love Hodgson for the bit, but a manager with real attacking ideas, new stuff with this talent could really do something with these two guys. And now we've had 2 matches where both have been fit, and Palace looks like a vastly different team going forward. They beat Liverpool, could have had 2+ in that game. Then they thrash West Ham, caught the Hammers in a great spot. Market was well aware of the spot. But, I mean, Newcastle's defense has been better, but away from home, they're still bad in transition. They're still bad in wide areas. They struggle with guys who can dribble in space. That is what Crystal Palace is. So the Eagles are flying right now into the finish here. New manager bump, whatever. And I think there's going to be goals in this one.
I agree. And I think the position that Crystal Palace is in now, where they're not going to get relegated, they really aren't going to have a really shot at any European spot. Glasner can tinker and start to work in his system and drill it to the point where Crystal Palace could be a really good team next season. And, with Glasner, he is not, for the first part of, his tenure with Crystal Palace, it was stay with the low block, and then kind of work into his system. Now they're playing a 3-4-2-1. And like Anthony mentioned last week, Eze and Elise are playing as double number 10s. And that's an amazing thing that a manager has figured out, to play your 2 best players in the center parts of the pitch and attack in the best attacking positioning. So they should have no problem against this Newcastle defense, because, Newcastle's match against Tottenham was very interesting of what they were doing out of possession. When it was goal kick situations, they were doing their normal 4-3-3 press. They were pressing high, pressing relentlessly, going man-to-man all over the pitch. And then suddenly, when it wasn't that type of situation, it was fall back into a 4-5-1, which they haven't been good in this season. And Tottenham still create a lot of chances against them. So, if you miss the over 2.5 at a decent number, like Anthony said, just play over 2.5 and both teams to score, because more likely than not, I don't really see either team running this 3-4-0.
All right. And very excited to get to this one. Manchester United is a minus 330 favorite at the Theater of Dreams.
Higher at some books too.
Sheffield United.
How?
The Blades plus 750, the draw plus 550. United, I mean, is it, do we need to go further than this conversation or this point? United drew Championship Coventry City
in a match they were completely dominating, by the way, for 60 minutes.
Yeah. I don't even know if we need to go further than that.
I love Ten Hag and being like, well, they did some great stuff in that last 15 minutes. Dude, what's the opposite of a moral victory?
Yeah. We call it. You want to know what it is? There's a saying in Islander country, New York Islander country. We call it a feel bad win.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot of friends who like United, and reading through some of the texts, I'd rather lose, who gives a shit if we win? Jokes about Mark Goldbridge, the YouTube guy, just like Ten Hag. Like my buddy made a Brexit joke. It's really funny seeing the heel turn. But Ten Hag in, man. I'm Ten Hag in. Keep this guy around. Hope they win the final. I mean, what's their motivation now? They're playing for jobs. Some of these guys,
I guess, right?
Yeah. Sheffield.
So is Sheffield
relegated.
United. They're playing for jobs in the Premier League as well.
Sheffield's relegated. I mean, that's essentially it now. I mean,
Yep.
But the thing about United, it doesn't matter who they play.
It doesn't.
The defense is so bad. They could play Luton. They could play Burnley. They could play Coventry City. How do we not just take Sheffield team total overs?
They could play Rotherham United.
They could. Who was the team they played that scored a couple times on them?
That
FA
was
Cup match.
Newport, right?
Yeah.
Newport. What was it? 4-2?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. So, they played Liverpool. Oh, wow. They held Liverpool to 2. Oh, there was 4 XG.
I have a stat, and it's kind of a sad one. United's kept 1 clean sheet in the Premier League. Do you know who in 2024? Do you know who it was against?
Yep.
Yeah.
Of course.
We had money on the other team, right?
Yeah.
It was the match after the points deduction.
Yeah, United got 2 penalties.
It was Garnacho, right? It's the Garnacho.
No, this is the second clean sheet against Everton, Michael.
Oh God.
Oh, that's right. They did keep 2. How many have they kept in the league this year? Like 5?
Liverpool. I think it's 6.
Liverpool, both Everton matches.
Luton,
they had a 1-0.
Sheffield.
No, they gave up the goal to Sheffield.
Oh, they did. Excuse me.
Yeah. Burnley.
There's a couple early in the year.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
But yeah, no, it's. I mean, yeah, I don't really know what else to say. But I'll say something about Sheffield. Like, they're scoring lately.
Yeah.
So 8.3 expected goals in their last 6 matches. They got Brereton, Cameron Archer, Oliver McBurney are all healthy. So they have something. And
I mean, you're getting as high as 9-1 on this team. Come on.
I also like both teams to score at -150.
I can't believe we forgot their best clean sheet of the year. Opening weekend against Wolves.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
1-0.
Even their clean sheets are like the most hilarious. Like,
they had a clean sheet against Everton with 2.4 XG allowed. West Ham 1.4, Everton 1.6, Liverpool, of course, the famous Anfield game.
Yeah.
The only one they probably deserved the Fulham game and the Luton game. Fulham was horrible. And Burnley, I don't remember Burnley away, but they played Burnley away at some point this season. Bruno scored a goal. I don't know.
Yeah. By the way, at the halftime today, when United was up 2-0, shots were 11-1, and they were completely dominating possession. And they score, obviously, close out of halftime, and then just I don't know if they were exhausted or what happened.
They're not capable of defending.
They aren't, and they don't have anybody healthy to defend either. I mean, they played Casemiro at center back, and the reason they gave up the first goal was because he
only
didn't
18 shots for Coventry today, though. They were able to hold the team under 20.
No, the first goal happened because Casemiro just didn't mark Ellis Sims, and he just put it in the back of the net. It's like pretty simple defending, and they just didn't do it.
I didn't think Casemiro played bad most of the match, actually, but obviously they give up 3 goals in the second half. He misses a penalty. We make jokes. It's fun. But I actually haven't bet this match yet. I'm going to wait, see if it moves, and definitely worth an underdog shot, though, right? For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Reverse puck line?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if they're going to win, they might as well do it. So that wraps up the Premier League 6 matches in the English top flight. Let's go to Italy real quick for the Coppa Italia semi-finals. One side it's Lazio and Juve. The other side is Atalanta and Fiorentina. Anthony, BJ, you're both on the same side in that match between Fiorentina and Atalanta. So I'll flip it to you first, Anthony.
Yeah, so Atalanta closed Pick'em on the road in the first leg. Now they're only minus 125 at home. If you just flip home field, like it should be closer to 150, 155. I don't think much of Fiorentina. Of course, it's like a tricky spot for Atalanta because of their fixture pile up. So I think the market is kind of downgrading them as a result of that.
Well, same thing with Fiorentina. Actually, Fiorentina's is worse.
And exactly, which is, hey, Fiorentina also on the quicker turnaround. And I trust Atalanta's attacking depth way more than Fiorentina's. Even getting like Bilal Touré minutes today, he scored off the bench. So I like Atalanta at home to turn this.
Yeah, I like them as well. And I'll go to the other match. Lazio, Juve, both teams to score no, minus 125. Juve has a 2-goal advantage. I mean, what do you think they're going to do? Like, they're just going to sit, and they're just going to sit back there, and they're just going to dare Lazio to just take a billion shots from outside the box. I watched Lazio and Genoa on Friday, and Genoa is a very similar team to Juventus where they just play so passively. And Lazio, all it was shots from outside the box, a couple set pieces. They got their one opportunity. They scored it. But other than that, it was just a whole lot of nothing happening for all 90 minutes. I think it's exactly what you're going to see. A nice Allegri masterclass here. I bet it. I mean, we're going to get this is just 0-0 written all over it. So both teams to score no, minus 125.
What is the total? 2.5? No way, right?
No, it's 2.
2, yeah.
All right. That brings us to our underdog parlay. This is the biggest we've ever given out, I would think, right? Nothing's going to come close to this. I actually miscalculated it too. 389 to 1, it looks like. I might even have that wrong. But let's see. Anthony, you go first. We just talked about it.
All right, I'll go Sheffield United plus 750. United's defense is the second worst in the league second half of the season, allowing only Luton Town is the only team allowing more shots. The vibes are bad. The defense has no healthy players besides Slabhead Harry. And they look like they've kind of lost hope in this manager, in this situation. Sheffield United has a semblance of an attack, as bad as they are defensively. Sheffield also has had a handful of just like hilarious beatdowns that I think maybe have bludgeoned their numbers further down than maybe they should be. But I mean, United's laying a goal and a half. They're minus 375. They're just not good enough defensively to warrant that. So I'll take a shot on the Blades.
Beautiful. Yeah, like I said, there are some bigger numbers out there on Sheffield United, but for this purposes, we'll stick with the plus 750. I mean, we're splitting hairs at that point when you're getting this high. I'm going to Everton plus 550, taking on Liverpool in the Merseyside derby. I think a lot of me and BJ, our underdog picks, are going to come down to one simple fact: the big favorite that we'll be taking on, they're gassed. They are absolutely at their wits' end with the schedule, the fixture, the fixture, the schedule construction, I guess you could say, for them with Champions League, or in Liverpool's case, Europa League, FA Cups, all sorts of stuff. Huge high stakes matches in title races. It's really bad. Everton, meanwhile, got a huge win over the weekend, so there's very little relegation pressure on them anymore. And they do have some advantages here, and they're taking on a Liverpool team that has been wobbling for the past fortnight, and probably because of the congestion of fixtures. So I think that getting Everton at home at plus 550 is absolutely worth a shot. BJ, what about you?
Brighton plus 550 at home at the Amex. De Zerbi has played Pep really tough in all 3 meetings that they have, especially the first meeting this year. City scored off of 2 low-quality chances, went up 2-0, and then Brighton proceeded to dominate the rest of the match, got a goal, and it ended up only being 0.8 to 0.8 on XG. And that is kind of the story of this City team right now, is when they play really, really good defensive teams, and you saw it against Chelsea on Saturday, they have kind of struggled at breaking down these low blocks. And Brighton is a good team when they're playing in rest defense. If you look through their numbers this season, they're top 5 in non-penalty expected goals allowed. They're top 5 in shots allowed, top 5 in expected threat allowed. They've just had some bad goalkeeping, and that's kind of what let them down and allowed them not to have very many clean sheets. But Brighton can put a good semblance of players in their attack, even though they do have a lot of injuries. They can start João Pedro, Simone Adingra, and Ansu Fati up top, and that can give City a ton of problems, especially a City team that has been terrible defending in transition. Huge rest advantage here for Brighton. 12 days of rest. This is City's 8th match in 25 days. Like, that's crazy. They're going to be completely gassed. So Brighton plus 550 for me.
There you go. At these prices, 358 to 1. You probably can find a way to make it bigger. So good luck. Make sure to shop around.
Islanders to win.
Yeah, throw the Islanders in there. Maybe you could throw Chelsea in there. But we'll get to them, actually. Let's talk about our favorite bets for the upcoming midweek slate of Premier League matches. BJ, right back to you.
United, Sheffield United. Both teams to score, minus 140. United has no semblance of a defense left. They had to start Casemiro at center back today against Coventry City. That didn't go well. Even when they were dominating the match for 60 minutes, they just got completely gassed and let in 3 goals. And that can happen here against Sheffield United, who has been better attacking recently. Last 6 matches, 8.3 expected goals created. At least they have their best 3 attackers, Ben Brereton, Oliver McBurney, and Cameron Archer available. I mean, United's not going to be able to control this match. And Sheffield United, given the situation they're in, I don't think they're just going to sit in some type of passive low block and just let United have the ball. This is going to be a very end-to-end style match. United in 2024 is allowing 2.2 expected goals per 90 minutes. They've kept 1 clean sheet in 2024. They've held 1 team under 1 expected goal in 2024. Like, this defense is terrible. So I'm fading both of these defenses right now. So I like both teams to score at minus 140.
I'm going to stick with the theme of fading these title chasers with Chelsea at plus 475 on the money line. I think that Arsenal is going to also come into this game. I mean, they are in the worst rest spot of all of the teams chasing, with the quickest turnaround from the weekend with a Tuesday match, the lone Tuesday match. And we've talked about at length with Chelsea that this is a team that punches up pretty well. They punch down pretty horribly, but they already had a good showing against this Arsenal team. They've had a couple good ones against Manchester City. So I trust Chelsea. I trust that they'll be able to play to this number here, give you a real good run for your money, BJ. Your Arsenal, a real good run for their money on Tuesday. So I'm going to make this underdog my favorite bet for the 6-match slate this week. Anthony, you can bring us home.
Arsenal, Chelsea under 3.5, minus 145. Said it earlier on the podcast. When these two teams played in the fall, the total was 2.5. It just shows you how much the totals in the Prem have gotten a little insane. And Arsenal is one of the few teams that does not really subscribe to this current version of the Prem that's so insanely back and forth and end to end. And Chelsea's very happy playing those matches. They will not get the chance to play that style in this game. Arsenal's attack, I have major questions. Saka looks really gassed, and their backup attackers behind Saka, Martinelli, and Havertz are just kind of And I think as a result, their attack struggles when they don't get the set piece cheat codes. And they have not had them recently. So the goals are drying up. And I like the under in this one.
All right, that'll do it for this episode of Wondergoal. We will be back recording Wednesday night to preview another weekend ahead in the Premier League. But until then, best of luck with all your bets. Thank you to our producers. Thank you to anyone who's rated, reviewed, and subscribed in the last little while. Please keep those coming. For Anthony and BJ, I'm Michael. Thank you for listening.